A Less Than Royal Narcissist, Part 32. I receive repeated requests from people to address various different aspects of the world of Meghan Markle, the interactions with the royal family, the interaction with Prince Harry, vis-a-vis the analysis appertaining to the narcissistic dynamic. Narcissism is a huge topic. It's a huge topic in terms of the different ways that it manifests, the different dynamics that occur between narcissists and different victims, the different types of manipulation that go on, the various aspects of the narcissistic dynamic and how that plays out. There are, of course, ongoing fluid situations which provide prime opportunities to demonstrate to people different aspects of this whole world of narcissism. Addressing all of these takes considerable time, and it is useful to touch on as much as possible, not only to enable people to understand what is occurring, but also for them to increase and heighten their understanding of narcissism generally. Given that so much is written about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, so much is reported about them, they are of course extremely newsworthy. And as we know, they don't read their press, except save when they do. But what I thought it would be useful to do, in order to address as much as I possibly can, is to take a scroll through snippets of information that have been provided about recent observations about the couple and what they've been doing, and in each instance, translate that for you through the prism of narcissism. The Sun newspaper, that bastion of brilliant journalism, has a blog and provides an ongoing live scrolling of information appertaining to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Remember, the veracity of the information is something that you can judge for yourself. You are all intelligent listeners, well, for the most part, and you can assess the veracity of the information as you wish. What I'm doing is explaining to you what is reported, how that impacts within the narcissistic dynamic, and what is at work. It's important to make that distinction with regard to the veracity of information and then the analysis of the same. What comes in front of me, I analyse. I interpret it for you, utilising my skills as an expert about narcissism. You can make your own mind up with regard to the veracity of the information. So I'm going to take a scroll through this, highlighting on little snippets of more widely reported aspects. So for the first one is Prince Albert of Monaco weighing in with his thoughts. And that's reported more widely in other news outlets. And what we get is a succinct summary here, which helps with regard to getting through as many different instances as one can to provide you with this further information. So it's reported that Prince Albert was bothered over Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview. Prince Albert has claimed that Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah Winfrey bothered him. Speaking to BBC World News Service in a rare interview, the Prince of Monaco said how intimate conversations about family matters should be kept within the family. I think it's very difficult to be in someone's place, Prince Albert said. I can understand the pressure that they were under. But I think this type of public dissatisfaction, to say the least, these types of conversations should be held within intimate quarters of the family. It doesn't really have to be laid out in the public sphere like that. It did bother me a little bit. I can see where they're coming from in a certain way, but I think it wasn't the appropriate forum to have these kind of discussions. And of course, he is noting, although not stating as such, the absence of emotional empathy exhibited by having such a conversation, the sense of entitlement that's demonstrated rather by having such a conversation, and the lack of boundary recognition. I repeatedly explained to you that much of what goes on in the narcissist world ought to remain private, but narcissists have to have a platform. Not all narcissists will necessarily do because they're not famous. And for many, such a platform was not afforded to them for a long time until along came social media. And you'll know the individuals. You'll see the incessant postings of the selfies telling you where they are, that they're furious right now, inviting people to ask, "Oh, what's up, hun? Inbox me and I'll tell you." The attention seeking, the assertion of control. Now, of course, not everybody who behaves that way is a narcissist. It's an indicator. And I explain elsewhere why this behaviour has permeated into the mainstream, the cult of the selfie being a brilliant example of that, but that's a different topic. But social media provides a huge platform, and so you get the oversharing, the lack of boundary recognition, people thinking that the world needs to know everything about them. And that is grandiosity, delusion, the necessity of asserting control, directly over listeners, viewers, readers, and indirectly over the person being complained of. And, if you haven't listened to it already, my piece on Derek Jackson exemplifies the narcissist at work in terms of utilising social media. And I explain also the instances in the 10 takedowns of the narcissist, the habitual behaviour of certain narcissists to take to blogs and YouTube to air their dirty linen in public, born out of a sense of entitlement. And that was what we witnessed with the interview. And Prince Albert has identified, demonstrating that this should not have been done. It should be kept quiet and resolved privately, but a narcissist will never do that, unless, of course, it serves the narcissist's purposes to do so. More usually, the narcissist wants everybody to know because they think that they are the victim. From their perspective, they believe that that is the case. And therefore, in the circumstances, the narcissist, believing they are the victim, feels the need to tell everybody. The unaware narcissist does so quite simply because they honestly believe that they are being attacked and the behaviour towards them is unfair. But what they're really doing is asserting control. And the interview that took place was a prime example of that. Tory MP dismisses Meghan's claims of racism in the royal family. Tory MP Sir Ian Duncan-Smith dismissed Meghan Markle's claim of racism in the royal family following her interview with Oprah Winfrey. Speaking in a video call for the Heritage Foundation, the MP said that the Queen and the monarchy stood for unity. Asked by Joseph LeConte, the director of the Simon Centre for American Studies, what was his response to the allegations of racism in the royal family, Sir Ian said, "I believe in the constitutional monarchy of the United Kingdom. I believe in it because I believe it creates a stable base for our democratic politics. I've never wanted to have another politician, like me, take over the head of state role because whatever else we say about it, we bring our own political views. I think the Queen and the rest of the royal family bring to this is stability as they have an ability to bring people together." Of course, what we have here is another narcissist dissing another narcissist, with Duncan Smith through a platform expressing his opinion, sense of entitlement, and doing so with regard to the behaviour and allegations of Meghan Markle offending his sense of control, and therefore he speaks out against it. Serena Williams says Meghan showed class in interview. Here we have a coterie member operating. It's reported as follows. Serena Williams has praised her friend Meghan Markle as the strongest person I know, and applauded her class in the bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey. The 39-year-old opened up about why she chose to publicly support Meghan in an interview with Stuart Weitzman's chief marketing officer, Benzar Gahramani, on Wednesday. She hailed her long-term friend's strength, confidence and selflessness in the first episode of the brand's Shine series. Serena also claimed she was tired of sitting back and watching another untrue allegation being made against Meghan. Here we have a coterie member that's speaking up on behalf of the narcissist, and in so doing, exhibiting that support is part of enabling the narcissist to feel a sense of control with regard to what is being said. And Serena Williams is motivated by her own necessities in terms of what she's saying, and of course will be utilising the friendship for her own platform. But It demonstrates how an individual will sit within that coterie for the purposes of saying things and doing things, blinded to what is actually taking place. And of course, she's perfectly entitled to express her views and, from her perspective, identify that her friend is operating through strength, confidence and selflessness, but is failing to see what is actually at work. And of course, many of you have asked me, why is it that certain people can't see through the veil of narcissism that Meghan Markle operates? Well, quite simply, some people just don't understand narcissism. And in many instances, what happens is they align themselves with Meghan Markle and essentially sit within that echo chamber. And so as soon as anything is said that criticises her, no matter how well argued, how logical, how evidence-based, it doesn't matter, because they won't listen. Because all they hear is, this is an attack against Meghan Markle, this is an attack against Meghan Markle, this is an attack against Meghan Markle, and their defence systems are activated. Now, some of these individuals will be narcissists, and unaware ones. And therefore, what they do is they are commandeering the character traits of Meghan Markle, and they believe that they're empathic, false empaths. And what then happens is, when somebody criticises Meghan Markle because she's seen as an extension of themselves, it feels like a criticism of them and threatens their control. And this causes them to respond, throwing around allegations of racism, throwing around allegations of being unfair to people with mental health issues, rather than actually scrutinising the evidence for itself. So some of the supporters are narcissists. And of course, there are those that detract from Meghan Markle who are also narcissists. So they're on both sides of the divide. But the majority of people that do support Meghan Markle are not narcissists. There are notably ones in there, and quite vociferous and loud-mouthed ones, but the majority aren't. They are usually normal individuals who identify with her. It might be along racial lines, it might be along the lines of they've been a fan of the show that she was in. It might be that they think that it's rather good that a non-royal has got into the royal family in this particular way, and one that's American, for instance. And therefore, what happens is that because they align with her, they don't like to be told something that doesn't fit with their narrative, because nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. It doesn't make you a narcissist because you don't like being told that you're wrong, but a lot of people fail to actually listen to the evidence because of their entrenched and preconceived views. And we've seen more and more of this recently with the increased polarisation of stances, with people who fail to listen effectively to one another. Now, so when one explains to them, this is narcissism, here's why, they can't accept it, and they switch off from actually looking at the evidence and trying to understand it. And they just basically become indignant. Their defences are raised because their poster girl is being attacked. For others as well, it represents an ideal, some kind of hope for them that one of their kind has managed to get into the rarefied atmosphere of wealth and the royal family, and they feel protective of that individual. And therefore, empathic individuals also feel protected of her, and their empathy for her outweighs their ability to look at the evidence logically and see what is occurring. So, amongst those that support Meghan Markle, the failure to see what she actually is isn't because all of the individuals are necessarily stupid, but there are many who are hard of understanding. Some are narcissists, some are normal, and some are empathic. And in the case of the normals and the empaths, it comes down to according with a particular position, allying with Meghan Markle, and therefore just responding to what they perceive as an attack rather than actually listening to what is going on. And, in effect, they become extended members of the coterie. They're not close enough to Meghan Markle to be actual coterie members, but, if you will, they almost create an extra category of that. Sort of sub-coterie members that support her, do her bidding, not because she tells them to, but in the same way that a coterie member thinks it's unfair the way this person's being treated. I'm now going to go and put a brick through the perceived perpetrator's windshield. These individuals, out of a misplaced sense of loyalty by failing to examine the evidence, then go around trying to argue against the position, flying in the face of the evidence that is mountainous and continuing to accumulate. Of course, there will be those that may think, I thought there was something quite off, didn't make my mind up about it, and now I can see it. There may even be ones who thought I was a supporter and now I'm not. But the majority of them will not, because they're entrenched in their view, and even providing them with the evidence, they just will not be able to see it. And of course that becomes frustrating for other individuals who want them to be able to see, not to point score over them, not to say, haha, I'm right and you're wrong, but for the purposes of demonstrating to them, look, I'm trying to help you understand what's happening here. Unfortunately, with those type of individuals, you're wasting your time and your breath. The next little snippet is about the Duchess of Sussex donating £10,000 to project tackling poverty and racism. The Duchess of Sussex has donated £10,000 to a community project tackling poverty, racism and social exclusion. Meghan gave the money to Nottingham charity Himar with funds from the Royal Foundation. The community project, based in Gamble Street in the Hyson Green area of the city, provides more than 650 emergency food parcels every month to people across the city, as well as serving more than 60 hot meals every day. Reacting to the donation, Himar's director, Sajid Mohammed, joked, "For ages I thought the whole thing was a hoax. They kept emailing me and ringing me about the donation, saying it was from the Duchess of Sussex, and I just couldn't believe it. I was utterly gobsmacked and hugely humbled that Meghan knew about our charity and wanted to support us. It's an absolutely incredible sum, and we're so very grateful." This, of course, is a benign manipulation, facade management, and is part of asserting control not only over Mr. Mohammed and the members of his charity, but also the world at large by conducting this benign act. I've mentioned before that some people fail to understand that when a narcissist commits a benign act, somehow people think, well, you can't be a narcissist if you do good things. Well, I help millions of people escape the clutches of narcissism through my information, and I'm a thoroughly nasty individual. So that doesn't make me any less of a narcissistic psychopath. It means that I am able to do acts of good because they serve a purpose for me, and this is precisely what this donation is. Of course, Meghan Markle won't see it that way, unaware of what she is. She will see it as, I'm doing a nice gesture here by donating £10,000. And as I've explained before, many narcissists will perform acts of charity, benevolence, magnanimity, which other people benefit from. But it is not engendered by emotional empathy. It is done out of the assertion of control, the pursuit of fuel, the gaining of character traits, and residual benefits, namely the facade. The prime aims. And here, this gesture is done for the purpose of asserting control, managing the facade, receiving fuel by way of comments and thanks, and is a benign form of manipulation. And many of you listening who have experienced the narcissistic dynamic will all know full well about benign manipulations when you were flattered, complimented, bought gifts, taken on holidays, given great sex, given support, offered a job, lent money, taken places. Had the narcissist clean your backyard? No, that's not a euphemism. And so consequently, we can perform benign acts, and do so repeatedly, either as part of the seduction or thereafter as facade maintenance. And that is what this is here. Of course, why not make the donation anonymously? Well, that to a narcissist is no good. No facade management. Where does the fuel get directed if you don't know who it's from? And where it's meant to be going to? George Michael, for instance, he is an empath, or rather was an empath. He made considerable charitable donations and never said anything about it. Why? His emotional empathy didn't require it. He did it quietly, went about that business on the down low, as a true empath does. He didn't shout or crow about it. Of course, other people mentioned that he did it, but he didn't ask them to. they revealed that information. In the same way, for instance, he signed over the royalties for Last Christmas to ensure that Andrew Ridgeley had an income for life. He did so out of his emotional empathy. So George Michael is one of your kind. And that's your kind to all the empaths listening. But ultimately, yes, narcissists will conduct benign manipulations, but they are to serve our purposes. The next little snippet, the hidden meaning behind Meghan's self-truth necklace. Meghan Markle sent fashion fans into a frenzy when she appeared in a £22 blue dress on the Late Late Show with James Corden, arsehole, earlier this year. During his interview, Prince Harry, the British talk show host, gave the Duchess of Sussex a quick FaceTime call. Along with her affordable frock, which sold out within hours, the former Suits actress wore a $1,296 crystal necklace from the Heirloom, page 6 reports. The collection of wearable talismans was designed by Taryn Toomey, who attended the Duchess's luxury baby shower at the Markle Hotel in New York in 2019. According to the product description, Meghan's lapis lazuli crystal aids in self-expression and revelation of one's inner truth. Perhaps that's why we've been seeing more of the narcissism on display. This crystal is causing it to come out. Who knew? Of course, such a talisman being designed by the individual that appeared at the luxury baby shower, which cost a huge amount of money, and which took place, of course, in 2019 when apparently Meghan couldn't go anywhere, I believe, that she was complaining of. Seems to have managed to get to New York okay. Hypocrisy, contradictory behaviour. The next snippet, news suited and booted. Meghan Markle has dropped her long-time agent, who has looked after her since Suits, as she has a new dream team. Potential disengagement of a non-intimate secondary source, new dream team in keeping with the escalating profile and grandiosity. Nick Collins became Meghan's agent before she was a well-known actress and has stuck with her ever since. But The Sun can reveal the pair had parted ways, along with Meghan's chief of staff, who moved on from her role after less than a year. Mr. Collins joined the Gersh agency in 2005, was made a partner in 2015 and promoted to co-head of talent 3 years ago. He was one of a handful of American guests at Meghan and Harry's wedding and was reportedly named by insiders as a key advisor and independent voice for the Sussexes when they plan to leave the UK. It's been reported that he will remain a consultant and that he and Meghan did not part on bad terms. Assertion of control by keeping him on good terms, that he has a role as a consultant. This individual probably knows quite a lot of information, and therefore he's being kept sweet by, although he's been traded out because the narcissism dictates that a more powerful, effective team cater for the burgeoning ego of the narcissist, that there is also merit in maintaining the facade by ensuring that he is kept on side by giving him a consultancy role. Princess Eugenie and husband, only royals Meghan and Harry close to. Speaking to OK magazine, royal correspondent Katie Nichols said that the Duke and Duchess have maintained their close bond with Harry's cousin. She said Eugenie and Jack are very close to Harry and Meghan. It's actually one of the few close relationships Harry and Meghan have retained in the royal family. And of course we know why they haven't retained close relationships, because of the need of Meghan Markle to guillotine the relationships that could be seen as threatening her control over Prince Harry. Clearly, Eugenie and Jack aren't seen as a threat. Indeed, the announcement, as I understand, of Meghan Markle's second pregnancy was made overshadowing with Princess Eugenie's recent nuptials, and as a consequence, they are seen as individuals that can be trampled over and aren't going to cause a problem. They're not viewed as going to threaten the control of Meghan Markle, and therefore they are tolerated. They are kept as a relationship, whereas the other members of the royal family have been pushed to a distance because they are viewed as black, because they are seen as potential threats to Meghan Markle's control over Prince Harry. Prince Harry is set to start his new career confined to his sprawling US mansion. A sprawling US mansion that he hasn't got any money for, apparently. The Duke of Sussex, 36, will initially work from home as Chief Impact Officer at mental health firm Better Up. He will also be spared a daily commute for his other new role, a part-time position probing fake news. The Royal shares a 14,500 square foot 9-bed house in Montecito with Meghan and Archie. The fact that he's working from home, of course, will accord with Meghan Markle being able to continue to assert control over him. Best of both worlds. Residual benefits, he earns an income. I understand that he receives a second-figure sum as a consequence of the role of the Chief Impact Officer. And there is also the fact that this benefits through character trait acquisition, so that she commandeers the fact that he's doing meaningful work with regard to the mental health firm Better Up, and also with regard to the probing of fake news. That adds to the facade utilised by Meghan Markle. She acquires those character traits of what he's doing, but doesn't allow him too much slack on the leash, so that he is prone to potential interfering influences by other individuals. So she gains the best of both worlds by allowing this to occur. Of course, the irony of him being the Chief Impact Officer of a mental health firm Better Up screams loud and clear. And it'll be interesting to see whether the emotional thinking recedes sufficiently for him able to utilise that firm for his own assistance in dealing with what is happening to him. Whether somebody of that organisation will make a point about the ensnarement that he's in and that he will listen. At this juncture, unlikely, primarily because he has so much time in the 5 arenas of interaction with Meghan Markle that his emotional thinking remains high, obscuring his ability to see what he's involved in, what is actually happening to him. And those of you who've been victims of narcissists will know full well this feeling and experience whereby you can't see what's really going on. Emotional thinking obscures the view, takes you to acting through flawed logic, makes you feel in a particular way, which keeps you ensnared, keeping you interacting with the narcissist, spending time with the narcissist, challenging the narcissist, trying to help the narcissist, wanting to improve the relationship with the narcissist, and so forth. But this appointment, where he is working from home, will enable Prince Harry to remain on the leash, and therefore all bases are covered. He is controlled, he continues to provide fuel. Those particular character traits of his can be commandeered by Meghan Markle, and she also gains the residual benefits of the income and also the bolstering of the facade as a consequence of this. Finally, the latest snippet states, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey may have cost them a spot in the Hollywood elite, a royal expert has claimed. The Duke and Duchess, who have set up home in California, have been linked to A-listers, including George Clooney and the Obamas. Writing in the Guardian newspaper, Barbara Ellen said that the couple's chances of being accepted into Hollywood's elite have diminished since airing their grievances about the palace to Oprah. Ellen wrote, considering where Meghan and Prince Harry wish to end up, are they blowing it up big time? Put it this way, has Michelle Obama ever sat on a TV sofa bitching about her sister-in-law? Ellen pointed out that such behaviour is the antithesis of how the mega-rich, uber-influential, notoriously private elite conduct themselves. Now, of course, that's pure speculation on the part of Barbara Ellen as to considering that they may well have fucked up getting cosy with the relevant A-listers. But the point of this particular snippet is useful because, as you know, many of the mega-rich, uber-influential, notoriously private elite include members of our kind, the narcissists. But this distinguishes between the mid-range and the greater. The greater, having far more awareness, operating in a conscious and calculated manner, know that it is not a prudent thing to sit on that television sofa and spout everything off. It would affect control, it would damage the facade, it would invite unnecessary scrutiny. So they don't do it. They don't need to do it because the more evolved narcissism allows the greater narcissist to assert control in an alternative manner. Applying influence elsewhere, utilising considerable assets such as money, political clout, media clout, in particular ways, to allow the greater narcissist to assert control behind the scenes in a much more subtle way, rather than the tell-all interview sat on the garden sofa. However, the narcissism of Meghan Markle necessitates her doing that, and here we see an excellent potential example of, or rather an excellent example of a potential problem arising by the narcissism's need to assert control in the moment. The interview was done to assert control over members of the royal family, the public at large, other individuals close to both parties. And a collateral consequence could well be that in trying to assert control in the moment, that airing of dirty linen causes those within the elite to distance themselves. Not all will, of course, but a number will, because they will see it as unsavoury, and we don't want to be with the likes of individuals like that. Why? Because there is a risk they will do the same to the elite. That if things don't go Meghan's way, that she will start bleating, either publicly or through leaking material to members of the coterie, witness Gayle King, complaining about the way that she was treated, for example, by George Clooney, if he decides that he's not going to share his Nescafe with her. And therefore, those members of the elite would distance themselves. But of course, her narcissism isn't able to identify that because it is focused on asserting control in the moment, and it isn't thinking about the future consequences of her actions. And this is where a narcissist such as her falls down. And Barbara Ellen's observations, although they are speculation, if they turn out to be correct, is a useful encapsulation of that particular part of narcissism. Meghan Markle's narcissism needs her to assert control in the moment. She does the interview, and it has no regard for the consequences of that, which might mean that the very people that she wants to cozy up to for the purposes of facade management and character trait acquisition distance themselves from her. It also demonstrates the difference between mid-range and greater narcissists. The greater narcissists don't need to do those things because they have other means of asserting control, or they just go to the third assertion of control and say, I don't have to explain myself. A la certain narcissists in the royal family. Never complain, never explain. As you know from my work, there are 3 assertions of control: direct, indirect, and withdrawal. And many times, greater narcissists will just not respond. They are completely above the tittle-tattle. They hear about it, they see it, but they're not moved to respond to it because they are in the rarefied atmospheres, high above such underlings, and there is no need to respond to it. If they really needed to do something, they could assert control indirectly. But often, it is just ignored. But a mid-range narcissist, such as Meghan Markle, is unable to do that. Hence, the repeated use of the media, hence the repeated television appearances, the coterie speaking on her behalf, as a need to assert control. So there's a little roundup of the snippets that are being thrown around in the news at the moment with regard to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, to give you an interpretation of it all through the prism of the narcissism. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel to learn more about narcissism, and share my work with others so that they can learn and gain understanding. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.